Okay, which leads me to our next piece of intellectual property. There's not a piece of intellectual property, this is a piece of prior artwork in the marketplace. What this is it's basically a program that Avid, it's called Media Composer Adrenaline, and what it does is it allows you to take different camera angles from an event, or in the example here they use a yoga demonstration, and present each one of them in a horizontal arrangement first, and then that horizontal, all four lines are all four, how would you say, programs are displayed within that not grid but linear matrix. It's kind of like the video thing that I'm looking at right now with iMovie, so you can edit them in sequence. It's a great program, and I think it'll be a great technology to incorporate in with what we do. I mean, the industry has already been providing us, our company, with so much great innovation. We can make this work for us. Why we are different from this is, first of all, this piece of technology was designed for an editing machine. It was never designed for interactive broadcast with the general public. And so, if anything, and Apple uses a lot of the same technology, where you can make the cuts into the elements themselves and they'll already be lined up. And that's awesome technology, especially if we can start to cut in between it. This is the type of stuff we want to incorporate in. Why it is different from us? It was never designed for broadcast. And what our program does is it is designed for broadcast, and it's a delivery technique whereby these horizontal, or I guess this would be the vertical rows, if you're looking at it from an editing bay, within an editing bay. My background is in post-production, so I'm kind of familiar with this. What happens in our program is that each rung of the ladder goes through the memory device, and that is the only part of the program that is accessible. Okay? If anything, this I think will hold us up the most. Matt Lattig tends to disagree with me. And his argument has always been, well, that's designed for an editing bay, and you are actually designed for a personal viewing experience within this environment. Matt, I made a note down here for Matt. Matt's job is to prove how this is not obvious. Okay, because if you've been following some of the patent cases out there, obviousness is a huge problem right now. It has to do with two major landmark cases decided by the Supreme Court 2 years ago. One is for an electronic brake pedal that the Patent Office said could have been seen as an obvious incarnation of a pre-existing technology. Like, okay, they'd already invented the brake, and the automatic addition to the automatic, the electronic brake pedal. So what that meant is that when you press the brake pedal, instead of being connected to directly to a lever that affected the brake pads, what happened was there was a box in between where it would trigger an electric sensor that would know how to automatically, how much pressure to apply on the brakes. Okay? And what the case said was, when the inventors originally invented the brake, could they at that time see themselves producing this artwork? And if so, would that piece of artwork, the brake pedal, cover all additions to it, right? And so it's actually a very tough argument, because in a huge blow to inventors' rights, the Supreme Court said that even though the people who invented the brake pedal probably had no idea how it would be used as in connection with an electronic sensor, since there was no electronic sensors developed at that time. Would this be considered a piece of obvious artwork? And or would they have been able to determine that in the future incarnations of this device, would this sort of thing, could it be connected to an electronic sensor that would trigger this? And the Supreme Court said yes. And what that did is it was a huge blow to inventors' rights, because all of a sudden everything became a question of obviousness. So I think we've nailed our intellectual property. We've nailed this, but we're stuck on obviousness. Okay? Matt Laddock's going to work on that. I think what we can say is, if it is obviousness, then we know that nobody can sue us on the face of the earth for our intellectual property. And that actually might be a huge boost to us, because in this world of media, it's getting tougher and tougher to create new using experiences without running into intellectual property problems. Just take a look at what's going on with Broadcom and Qualcomm and a lot of other pieces of technology. What's happening is that there's so many patents out there covered in so many things that the ability for somebody to come in to a place like Microsoft and really bring them to their knees by claiming they have a patent on Microsoft's new deal has inspired Microsoft, Hewlett-Packard, IBM, and just name everybody else on the list to really pack their programs with intellectual property. Right now, I think there are 450,000 patents filed for last year. And if we can prove that our interface doesn't interfere with anything out there, that could really make us a much more viable company. And our value then is what we do for NBC. And NBC, I just read, is falling behind in the ratings. They are actually behind Univision right now. NBC is, I think I can do great things for NBC. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have two people also help me explain some of the things that we can do for NBC. And these guys have written thesis papers at MIT, and what I want to do is use some of their research and their study to help me with this new form of programming. The first guy's name is Edward Shen. I wonder if he's a friend of Shen Tong's. Probably not. But Shen wrote an amazing research paper with his team, Henry Lieberman, Lorinda Davenport, and the MIT laboratory, about their ideas of creating an interface where we can tell one story many different times. And you guys, I think this technology is great. It's not exactly what Intention does, so I think we can overcome the intellectual property. But what I'd like to do is talk to you guys about working with us. I think your research is fascinating, and I'd like to incorporate it into what we do, and any technology that you have would be a huge asset to us right now as we go to raise venture capital funding. I'll make it worth your while. The next guy is James Sun Hun So, or his name is James Jung and Hu Su. Maybe they wrote this together. You guys, I don't know what you're doing right now, but I'd love it if you came to work with me as well.